There. And we're rolling. And commence your presentation.
Okay, I will give my best.
And welcome to Harold.
As you heard, I'm coming from Germany. And I did science half of my life, and I worked as a journalist the other half of my life, writing articles, books for about 1.5 years in film business. So I saw a little bit of the world and many, many different topics. So I'm a little bit trained in interconnecting and understanding more complicated fields of research. This is maybe my core quality. And I started to deal with environmental monitoring when I was in Norway. Actually, I was working in Norway in the field of electrosensitivity for a company supplying measuring material like this one and shielding materials and giving courses for the people to understand what is happening if somebody becomes electrosensitive. And when I was there, I kind of was asked to look at chemical analysis of dying plants and the rainwater that caused the plant death and soil samples, because the farmers realized they're losing parts of their harvest that year. It was 2012, but they didn't know why. So they went to the labs, and then they had the lab results and they couldn't read it. They saw values, but they didn't even know what should have been on these papers. So they addressed me as a little bit crazy scientist from Germany and asked for help. And since then, I'm working on this chemtrail topic. And I think we looked through it now. It took quite a while to understand the different, let's say, the different agendas behind it, because it is not a single agenda. It's not a single group that has interests and is doing something to get what they want. It is a kind of onion-like structure of different groups who have different interests, and the longer you research on the topic, the more layers you discover. So what I'm trying to do today is kind of to dive through this onion-like structure and to try to give you a picture of those different agendas behind chemtrailing. There are two things I'm not going to do, and where I really would ask everybody who is discussing the topic, don't stare into the sky and try to figure out whether the thing you see is a chemtrail or contrail. It leads to nothing. It's a fruitless discussion, and we cannot solve this from down here. You cannot grab the stuff up there, you cannot make a chemical analysis. Just staring at it is hopeless. And the other thing that took me about 1 year, one lost year, is to deal with chemical analysis. This has one reason. If you make chemical analysis, you take a substance and dilute it in acids, and then whatever is dissolved by the acid can be analyzed, and what you get is metal values. You don't have a clue, if you did that, about the chemistry you analyzed or the crystal structure you analyzed, because everything that is dissolved, is gone, and all you have is the metal. This is one problem. You don't really see what you have. And the other problem is that not everything is soluble in acids. And actually the entire core technologies that we could discover later, if you check them in the lab, they are all completely resistant to acids. So there's no chance to get the real McCoy by chemical analysis. So those are two things I'm going to completely skip, also out of time reasons. I want to enter the entire picture from a different angle for today. And this is if we have somebody who is doing things in secret. It's not published in the newspapers, he will not talk about it in public. Then you have the other side of the game, that somebody is trying to figure out what is happening. And then there comes this ugly word, conspiracy theory, and one feels isolated.
Could you stand closer to the podium, because it's better lit that way for people.
Here, okay.
Thank you.
No, I dropped it.
Sorry.
If you're confronted with this thing that you might be a conspiracy theorist, then this is something emotional. Nobody wants to stand outside society. Nobody wants to be the weird guy. So this is basically an ugly argument that is used to make people shut up. So this can be fought with a few very, very not rational, just clever moves. We want to talk about chemtrails. So the first question that comes up to my mind is, where does this word come from? And this is a question that is beyond theory, because you can find out where the word comes from. And it comes from soldiers of the US Army, mostly US Air Force, who brought this word into the English language because they were sitting at the US Air Force Academy, attending classes of the chemical faculty. And one of the classes is the chemtrail class. This is kind of, when you study at this university, the class where you learn how to make chemtrails. Yeah. This doesn't touch the question, do chemtrails exist up in the sky or not? The only thing we can answer by looking at this chemtrail class is we can see this is a military technology. We don't know if it is applied or not. But we can study the technology because it's taught at the university. And this manuscript is a little bit hard to read. It's like 260 pages, roundabout that, and it's called a demon or an archon. And if you look at the descriptions of these archons from 2,500 years ago, the description of the biology is identical with what these Morgellon victim was painting. They're described as spiders with human faces. And there are exactly two different species that are close relatives but different. And it is described that they live as light parasites. And this is basically what the entire black magic tradition is about. Being a black magician means to communicate with those archons and offering them access to your physical light system, feeding them with the biophotons, feeding them with the life force, and in exchange they offer power. Power over other human beings. This is what black magic rituals are always about. So we're starting to get a picture here. And if you look at the political entities who might be responsible to introduce morgellons into the air. Look into the United States, we have the Bush family in power. Even if it's not called Bush, there's Bush inside. And they're all members of Skull and Bones. Sounds pretty black magic. If you look how these people are interconnected, the next topic is going to be black goo. And there's one big black goo deposit in Paraguay. And there's one village next to this black goo deposit. And the Bush family has her big villa escape territories. When they are chucked out of the United States, they're going to be down there, living in this little village in Paraguay. And a friend of mine went down there to get samples of this black goo from Paraguay. And he realized that Angela Merkel had her villa next door. Yeah? And this black goo has to do something with the communication with demons. This is in the black magic tradition, these black goo schists were used to communicate with the demons. So this all interconnects on political, scientific, and the level of mythology. We can access black goo also from the little pictures from the microscope. This is German rain. And if you want to know what this liquid does, you can have a look at it in the lab. When you have bigger amounts of it, it looks like this. It's It's a liquid crystal. This liquid is self-organizing physically. And this, at the moment, is sleeping. It's not aware of being observed, it's quiet. Sometimes when it doesn't like to be observed, it might jump out of the pot straight into your face. If you have two of those in one room, get them 5 meters close to each other, they stare at each other, then they decide that they want to be united. And then they start to pull. It's like magnetism, but it's intelligent. And when they realize that you hold them within the vessel and they cannot escape, they get angry and start to shake the vessel and try to break through the wall. Because they know once they are through, they can flow over the ground and unite to a bigger unit. This is something you can just observe in the lab. And especially this liquid was extracted from those black stones. This is World War II leftovers. We found them in an underground facility in Bavaria, 1/2 ton of it. So we can imagine that the SS processed quite a bit of this. And I guess that the guys found also the technology to extract the oil from it. Must have been there in written form because they did it in the lab successfully. If you look at those stones, you have a brief history of things reported out of former times. You have, if you look at H.P. Lovecraft, the descriptions of the black magic communities in Eastern Europe, they had kind of sculptures out of this black oil schist, and once a year they went there slaughtering little babies to get the demons out of the stone, sacrificing little children to communicate and get the service from the demons. This is one thing mentioned. If you go back in history, you find them in the Kaaba in Mecca, the same form of phallus-shaped structure that is described in Vedic script as Shiva's lingam, that is described in this Lovecraft script. A fragment of it is part of a central part of the Kaaba in Mecca, and every Muslim in the world is asked to go there once in his life and to kiss this stone. If you go back, you find them on Turkish and Roman, Greek and Turkish coins. You see them left and right of the tree of life in the paradise garden. So getting in contact with this black goo is what caused the deterioration of paradise. And it is not easy to understand the overall concept, because when you start to deal with black goo, the first thing you need to discover before anything makes sense is that there are two different qualities. We have liquid black goo. It is basically, it has been found on a southern Falkland Island, Tula Island, and this is what the war with Argentina was about, accessing this black goo. We have this type of earth black goo in the Gulf of Mexico. This was what the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe was all about. Somebody was shooting a torpedo at the facility, destroying the attempt to get the black goo out of Mother Earth. And we had, I think, eight military submarines getting close to World War III, trying to capture some of that oil after Deepwater Horizon was destroyed. And no single civilian was allowed to go to the beaches to remove the oil. And it was just military personnel with special equipment and fully shielded against the influence of this substance. So this is one quality that comes from Mother Earth. And then you have a second quality that is found in connection with meteorite sites. If you look at the thing in Paraguay, you can exactly see by the form the stones are broken in the environment that was an impact of a meteorite. If you look into the Arabic mythology, they say the thing in the Kaaba in Mecca is a fragment of a meteorite. And this is now not against Muslims. If you look into the Peter's Dome in Rome, you have a big piece of this stone under the Peter's Dome. And if you analyze all the churches built in Middle Ages in Europe, every altar has a black altar stone. And what you feel when you enter a church is not the love of God. It is more like a cold fear. Yeah? This is the resonance transmitted by the structure of the church, fed by this black stone in the central point. Now, what we need to realize is that there are two qualities. One quality is coming from inner earth, and one quality is coming from outer space. And they feel completely different. The Falkland black goo is called santan and oil because it has full empathy. If you're getting close to this oil, you're coming in a state of mind that is full of love and empathy. If you come into the vicinity of the meteorite black goo, your heart chakra dwindles to nothing and you become an empathy-free asshole. After my first contact with the stones, I was this close from killing the hotel director because she complained that I took a shower, although I had to sleep outside. They didn't have any rooms left, so I slept in the car, was dead frozen in the morning, and took a shower in a room of a friend who had the last room that was available. And she just complained that I took a shower without asking for permission. I was really close to killing her. This is what these stones do with people as long as they're unconscious. Now we need to understand, the second thing we need to understand is what is the function of the black goo. And to understand the function, you look at the chemistry. It is a mineral oil dotted with high amounts of alchemistic gold and iridium, which is precious metals in the M state, which is, it's not really explored. Some people say it's a type of antimatter that is far enough out of our reality to avoid a collision between matter and antimatter. Some people connect it with superconductive qualities. What we know is that gold and iridium in this state of matter is a very important component of biology. If you look at in DNA, you're kind of forming hollow spaces in the spiral, and you can fit these monoatomic precious metals exactly into the open space. And they kind of act as a biophoton attractor. The DNA itself is capturing the field energy, storing it and resending it out. But the gold and the iridium are attracting the photon onto the spot. So this is basically why we get old. The body is capable of producing M-state matter until we are 18 years old, and then we are losing it. And when the matter is gone, the M-state matter is gone out of our system, we disconnect from the morphic field, and we lose our shape and get old. This is why the Egyptian priests fed themselves with these M-state matter, and it's reported that they managed to get 800 years old, because this function was out of work. So basically there is a kind of fractal similarity between the function on light level of a human being and the function of the black goo within the earth or wherever it is, in a way that we are divided, we live in duality, we are single individuals that are only a little bit connected, interconnected with talk and telepathy sometimes, and with a beautiful smile one might receive, and we are kind of coming and going in generations. But the way we are processing light is actually the same as the black goo is processing light, creating this funny type of quantum magnetism. This is a light effect. So I came to the, let's call it a theory because I cannot prove it, that basically life is first created within a planet when water and CO2 is forming this type of black goo oil in transmutation processes. We had this process in the lab. We can replicate it. This is why I'm pretty sure with this part. that this is initially formed out of water and carbon dioxide by vortical motions, because we can do it in the lab. And then this type of black goo at a certain point is exiting the Earth, coming into the oceans. This is what you call a black smoker on the ground of the ocean. And this is where the geologists say there was the place where the first life was formed. Because of the repetitive light patterns start to modify with this oil. And the first simple life forms can be built that develop generations and individuals. Like a mass of oil can divide into 2 drops. This is a process of individualization. But the thing is that the light process is happening on a scalar level. So it doesn't distance does not matter. We can penetrate matter without interacting. So what this created, this is my theory, is that basically the entire biology on top, in the biosphere, on top of the planet, is interconnected with the black goo of the planet in a kind of mirror function. Everything we think, everything we feel, everything that is processed within the light body of a human is sent down there, and we have a holofractal, immortal being in the center of the earth that knows everything one can know, remembers everything that ever happened. And this might be the thing that is called the Akasha Chronicle. And this is what is giving the entire biosphere instinct. And the people who interact with this entity, they say it is a motherly creature. She has all aspects of a motherly creature. I observed this many times because when you start dealing with a black goo, you need either to commit suicide or to connect with her. So we have many people who have a straight connection to this being within the planet. And it's funny how she sometimes reacts. Like when somebody has the first contact with her, completely excited, she says, "What do you want?" And then the guy says, "Oh, I wanted to see, I wanted to meet. What do you want?" And then he doesn't know what, he has no question and no target. And she says, "Sorry, I'm busy. Come back when you want, when you know what you want from me." This is her. She's loving, but she's very straight. And now, theory. We try to get the point when these alien black goo arrived on the planet. And it is very likely that we can put the date at 80,000 BC, connected to the destruction of the Lemurian continent. This is a soft source, I would say. I wouldn't call it hardcore science, but many, many things hint to this. And people who have memory of incarnations in that time report that in the moment when Lemuria went down, there was a swarm of meteorites coming in, hundreds of them, hitting the earth, containing this black goo. And they also say that connected with these meteorites, there was an invasion of a species that said actually that they are in trouble and that they need asylum, and ask the people of that time to give them that asylum. And after some times they realized that this was fraud, that they begged for help, and the moment they were let in, they started to manipulate the subconsciousness and send mankind to an ugly state, to the ugly state we are in now still. To be able to control them and to be able to feed on them. So this is the full story reported by people who have the full memory of that time. Take it as whatever it is. Some people believe in reincarnation, some people have memory of former lives. I find it interesting that people who claim to have memory of former lives are able to give me precise information on topics I do research. So this is what is giving me the trust to listen to these people. And now, another thing that becomes interesting when you look at the different types of the black goo. I titled as binary versus trinary life. The sensation of the black goo forms is different. One is full of empathy, you have a heart in there, and one is cold and empathy-free. If you look at the scalar fields that are forming, how to say from which corner to take it first. If you look at the Vedic medicine, you have all these mandalas showing the symmetries within the chakras. This is about angular relationships. You can have squares, you can have a 6 structure, a 12 structure. If you look at scalar physics and at the way scalar waves build up scalar potential, you have unification of fields under certain angles. You can have unification of electromagnetic fields at 90 degree, 180 degree, 30 degree, and 60 degree. And in between, you just create chaos, but no order and no scalar potential. So we have these angular things out of hardcore science as well. And now we go to the microscope again. And we see funny pictures. We see funny pictures. We see a substance. I cannot name it yet. We have an idea, but it's not secured what substance this is. But if you look at it, what it does, we see a morgellon fiber, and we see nanoparticles of this special type. And when you come with your finger close to the morgellon fiber, all the bioenergy emitted by your finger is reconverted into a rectangular shape. This looks like there's a fight in between two systems of bioenergy. One is in rectangular and opposite geometry, whilst our biology is in the 30-60 degree system. And now if you look at the smart dust concept, if you look at the question, how does military people charge smart dust with scalar potential? They always use 2 antenna setups with the opposite wave to get the scalar energy into the fields. This is kind of the rectangular 180 degree concept. And I know several people who are in opposition to these military and intelligence community concepts, and who thought about interfering and destroying their technology, if there are possibilities. And then we had a kind of warning: don't even try to do it from down here. It's impossible, because you have sensor swarms. I know this is also a word from the NASA manuscript. It came out of the mouth of a clairvoyant in Germany, sensor swarms, without him knowing what he's talking about. And he said these sensor swarms redirect every emotion, every single positive emotion created by a human is reconverted by these sensor swarms into rectangular field structures. And then these guys found a way to get across these sensor swarms and managed to destroy the smart dust layers within the atmosphere. And this was all, you listen to the people. This is kind of clairvoyant and some spiritual practice to get access to these fields, and you cannot see anything happening. And 2 days later, this stuff came down with the rain. So apparently they managed to destroy the sensor swarms and got access to the fields. And then I went into the meditative state of mind, and because I wanted to see if it feels different. And from that day on, if you kind of send your senses into the sky, you could feel love up there again. Because you have these field structures, these angles that are corresponding with your heart chakra. So there are many, many things kind of that point to the thing that we have a little war between 2 different concepts of biology. One connected to alien black goo and to an alien species that is without heart energy, and one that is connected to our loving planet. So